What's up, Trunk Slayers? It's Spicy Monday time. And I have one today where I apologize in advance if you feel attacked. But I want to talk a little bit about why the idea of rating yourself as best in class is complete horseshit. And to take it a step further, why that causes a lot of you to not focus on an incredibly important metric that our cousins over in the enterprise and sysadmin space do focus on and do a lot better than we do with. And that's ticket deflection. And we're going to talk a little bit about how, especially at the small business level, which even a large MSP is still a small business, how this kind of feeds into a little bit of a circle where the kind of BS desire to be best in class causes us to stop thinking strategically about what we're actually doing. And so we don't focus a lot on ticket deflection because, well, we think that doing tickets is somehow our value add. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and I'm probably going to hurt some feelings. So let's quickly define what we're talking about. Best in class, general concept, been around for a long time in marketing. You have a class being some sort of loosely defined term to mean a grouping probably of other similar people, and then whatever you're offering is best in that class. And that could be simply because you deem it so, like saying world's best pizza. It could be because of some actual industry ranking within that industry. Could be from something else. So it could be a real award. It could be one you gave yourself. But it doesn't really matter for a few reasons that we'll talk about. And then ticket deflection, for those that aren't aware of ticket deflection, it's the concept that ultimately as a service desk, your highest opportunity cost and greatest chance to slow down and fail your end user is if you actually work a ticket for them versus finding methods to prevent tickets from being opened at all. And MSPs do a little bit of this with this concept of like proactive work and automation, but it's not really around the strategy of driving clients away from having to submit tickets. It's really only focused on preventing problems that would create the tickets. And it causes a major component to get left out and allows a lot of us to justify a pretty subpar experience by patting ourselves on the back and saying, but we're best in class. We're amazing. You should be thankful for this, customer. So let's talk about why everything I just said is complete horseshit. So for a minute, I want to switch gears. I want you to imagine that we are all fish, cute little fishies, and we are in a pond, and we are swimming in that pond, and there are hundreds of fish in this pond. And over time, given enough time, a sort of hierarchy is established within this pond, and you are lucky enough at your MSP to eventually become one of the more important fish in the pond. I won't say bigger, because it might not literally mean that you are the greatest in size, but you're one of the most influential and important fish in the pond. The other fish look to you and they say, man, that fish, that's how you do it. You're now best in class at being a fish. And don't get me wrong, like that takes some work. I'm not trying to take away from anybody that if you're the best out of a group of your peers, that's good. Good for you. Seriously, good for you. And keep working at that. But it doesn't really matter because here's the problem. The minute that I come along with my net and I scoop you up and I drop you into my fish tank or another pond, guess what you're not anymore? Yeah, you're not the top fish anymore for a few reasons. But the most obvious one being that regardless if you still have the skill set, nobody knows you. So nobody in the new pond knows that you're good at what you're doing. And it's going to take a significant amount of time to establish credibility and trust to be regarded by this new pond as being the best at whatever the old pond regarded you at. There's also the more, I think, subtle undertone that yeah, you're probably not as good as you thought you were, because when you get into a larger pond and there's a lot more fish and there's a larger sample size, turns out there's probably a lot more people who are just as good as you are, and you don't stand out anymore. It's the same logic. You'll hear me in videos ranting about how if every ticket is an emergency, then no ticket is an emergency. Because if everything is emergent, then nothing's emergent. That's how these things work. I hope you all understand that. So ultimately, saying that you're best in class is sort of a flawed, biased statement to begin with, because the class sets a box around it, and you're only as good as anything included in whatever you're defining as the class. And that's assuming everyone in that group had some method to actually rate you, and this isn't just some pay-to-play strategy or just the world's best pizza that you stuck on the outside of your MSP because that's the thing we do. So let's pull down a few other reasons why best in class maybe isn't the best strategy to be thinking about. All right, so you're with me that it's very possible that you have a limited sphere of influence, and only within that sphere of influence are you delivering the best around. And, you know, I should shut up and be happy that at least wherever you are located, you are the best in that area. And you know what? I am a little bit happy about that. And if Paul Dipple were here from Service Leadership, he would say, good for you. There's enough business in any market. Go crush it and take all of it. So if you really are the best in your market, I don't know what's holding you back. You should go out there, stop watching videos on YouTube. You should go out there and you should go get every single client and dominate the market. But while you're working on that, and when you come back because you need a lunch, think about something else for a minute. Do you really want to be known as the best pizzeria in town, or do you want to be known as the best restaurant in town? Do you really want to be known as the best restaurant in town, or do you really want to be known as the best place to go spend some money and take a break? Do you really want to be the best place to go spend some money and take a break, or do you want to be the number one destination that anybody in the town that has excess cash is going to go to and spend it at? That's probably what you really want. And if you focus on being just best in class, you're not ever going to be that, because guess who understands, cares, and is able to rank classes? The people who are in them. Guess who doesn't give a shit about that? Your customers don't care. You want an example of that? Well, probably most of you have cars, and unless you live in California, probably most of your cars take oil and gasoline. So you have to go get an oil change. And if you're like me, have you ever selected your oil change location based on what was the top rated best in class oil change place in your geography? Or do you go for the one that looks the least likely to get you murdered and is the most convenient? Because that's what I do. And I think that's what a lot of people do. We go the lazy route. We don't bother to analyze the oil change marketplace to figure out who's using the best quality products, who has the best service record, who is consistently rated best in class service amongst all oil change places. No, we look for convenience and comfort. Price probably plays a little bit of a factor as well. And maybe some loyalty. Maybe it's the same place you've been bringing your car for, the last couple of decades, or the dealership or something. But you know what I bet didn't even make your top 5 is which one was industry best in class. Because who cares? Who cares? I don't. You don't. No one cares. All right. So what's the harm in any of this? Well, superficially, there's no harm. In fact, superficially, this is great. Like, seriously, like, you're working hard. You want to stand out in your field. And a group of your peers in the field have either officially or unofficially recognized you as being good at what you're doing. That's not a bad thing. Like, good. And even better if some of your clients in your local geography have recognized you as being a good thing. Like, none of it is bad. Where it gets risky is where you don't understand where the weight of it ends. And that's the problem with a lot of small business owners. And I hate to say it, but a lot of you small business owners have egos that are bigger than mine, and my ego will not fit in a room. And so you all think that you are individually the most important, smartest person who has all the answers, who has figured it out. You're very proud of yourselves for building, in many cases, $1 million businesses, because that is statistically very hard to do in North America, right? It's only like 10% of small businesses make it to $1 million in revenue. A lot of MSPs are $1 million in revenue. And you get to a certain point where you're like that South Park episode when Teslas first came out, where they say all Tesla drivers love the smell of their own farts. A lot of you small business owners in this space, that's you. And so you take that and you add in this very short-sighted, I'm the best fish in my pond mentality. And you don't just take that as an excuse not to continue improving, which would already be bad. You take it a step further and you start using it as an active weapon to justify nonsense decision-making. And that's what we're talking about today, is using the best in class to focus on the wrong elements of your business and think they are a value proposition. And then we get to a point where we're not tracking things like ticket deflection. I'll give you a great example of this. I see posts sometimes on Reddit where people ask, what kind of reporting should I send to my clients? This is a perfect example of this. And I'll do a video specifically on why that's a dumb statement to be making anyways. So for now, hold on to it and just file it in the back of your head. You're stupid if you're asking what kind of reports you should be sending to your clients, your MSP. Cut it out. I'll beat you up in another video. But for the sake of this, so what kind of reporting should I be sending to my clients? Well, the good answer probably in most cases is none. And a lot of these MSPs that are best in class are going to get excited because they want to tell somebody about how great they are at doing the thing they're good at. And what ends up happening is you think you're coming in very excitedly explaining this very intelligent, interesting metric or statistic that your MSP is executing above average. And all the client hears is you coming in and saying, I changed 60 rolls of toilet paper last night. Or I cut 7,452 blades of grass in the lawn. Like, first of all, who gives a shit? And secondly, that's your job. That's literally your job. Do you want a gold star, little buddy? You work some tickets, huh? Oh, you want a little participation trophy because you did some tickets? That's what I pay you for. So that's a huge problem you have, and why the average end client really wants more results than they want to know about how the actual sauce is made and what goes into it, and why we have to be really careful about taking things like best in class and assuming that our client base understands and gives a shit about it, and then telling them about it not being an excuse to fall into basically asking to be pat on the back for doing our jobs properly. But you might be saying to me, Dean, I hear everything you're saying, but that's not me. I'm not so far up my own rear as to think that way. My ego is not that big, and I certainly don't send reports to my clients about how many tickets we did or how many touches we had on this, because I understand that our clients don't care about that. All right, hotshot. You ever have an incident where, let's say a backup incident where there was a major failure and your team worked basically around the clock for a day to pull a bunch of shit together. The BDR didn't fire off properly. Your team rebuilt all the data from scratch. They rebuilt the servers basically from bare metal and got the client back up and running as everything had been a day ago, 24 hours later, whether that's a 24-hour literally or 24 business hours later. And I mean, that's a hell of an accomplishment for especially a small MSP to do, especially if your tools failed you because of whatever reason. And you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, woo, fuck yeah, MSP, we did it. And the client's sitting there and they're like, I was down for a day, you dicks. And you're like, yeah, no, we're so sorry about that. But like, our team worked around the clock and got you back up. Yeah, I don't care. I pay you to do that. Why did they have to work around the clock? I thought I had business continuity stuff in place. This is ridiculous. No, we totally hear you, client. But see, this went wrong and this went wrong. And the heroes we have on our team did a best-in-class job restoring and rebuilding it. And we're so proud of ourselves. And why aren't you proud of us? Because I didn't want anything to fail in the first place, and when it did, it took you too long. You suck. How many of you has that happened to? Now, it might have been not that dramatized, but if you're saying it never happened to me, you're full of shit. It's happened to everybody who is anybody who runs any sort of service business. You have had a situation whereby the definition confines and what looks good within your industry stipulates, you have gone above and beyond for a client and you have pulled a miracle out of your butt. I don't care if this is MSP, the food service industry, a hair salon, a carpentry service, I don't know, a podiatrist, like any type of service-based business, you have had an experience like this, and then your client is sat there looking at you like, why are you standing on the award podium giving yourself an award right now? This was terrible. You're terrible. I'm not proud of you. And the best we usually get out of those is the client just moves on from it with sort of a relatively low feeling inside their stomach. The worst we get out of this is the moment the client starts thinking, this service provider's terrible. I don't know why I'm giving them any money. So why do I bring all this up? Because this brings up the problem with this mentality of best in class. Because you know what would have been best for the client if they hadn't had any downtime to begin with. And when the downtime first started, if everything had been properly communicated to them and all of the DR processes and tools they thought they were paying you for were executed on flawlessly, that's what would have been best for the client. But that's not what actually happened. And then we had to call in the MSP Avenger Squad. And yes, heroes assemble and all that. And that shit's awesome. But like, you know, think of it another way. If aliens stopped attacking the Earth every other Tuesday, we wouldn't need Superman. That makes sense to everybody? And like the fact that we have Superman, the amount of collateral damage that Superman causes probably over time outweighs the cost of letting one of these aliens just have their way with the planet. And I understand it's not the point and that's not the premise. And I also know Superman's DC, not Marvel. But you get what I'm saying here, is that the whole idea of having a superhero at a certain point is a self-negating premise. And in the same way, being best in class and walking around proudly, patting yourself on the back, talking about how great the service you're delivering is, and every time you've rescued somebody from a tragedy, nobody should have been in the tragedy to begin with. That's how your clients are looking at it. They do not look at you as you are the best MSP because you rescued them. They look at you as, what the fuck? Superman just destroyed my car. I'm going to be late to work and my insurance isn't going to cover this. And I don't make enough money to buy a new car. My entire life has been destroyed. I'm going to lose my house and I'm going to lose my kids. Thanks a lot, Superman. I don't really care if you saved us from a giant asteroid, because at least if the giant asteroid had hit, it would have been a global catastrophe. And, you know, at a global scale, everybody would have been in the same boat as me and there would have been more shared sympathy. You actually didn't really do me a solid, Superman. You kind of screwed me over. That's how your clients often feel in these situations where we're patting ourselves on the back thinking we've done a best in class job. So that brings me over to ticket deflection. So this is why ticket deflection is important. A enterprise help desk, our sysadmin cousins, their help desk, all our non-profit, not-for-profit help desks already typically have a ticket deflection metric because it's incredibly expensive and time-consuming for these sysadmins to work any actual tickets to get to them. And there's a variety of reasons for that, which we already understand. We know that most people are not happy once they have to make a ticket. We know that most end users are not cooperative. They don't read, they don't participate, they don't give us what we need. They're not there when we try to log in, or they're there when we said we wouldn't log in, right? Like if you find me an end user that knows how to read documentation and cooperate, and I have, I'll introduce you to Superman. Like, so tickets suck, and there's a whole variety of reasons why tickets suck. At the MSP, we tackle this partially. We try to go in with proactive maintenance to drive down the amount of technology items that'll break, but we generally don't have a strategy at most MSPs for how we want the people, and that's who we're actually supporting, the people to submit tickets to us, generate that flow to us, and when not to. And boy, oh boy, are we missing out on something here by not having active policies of ticket deflection. And you might be saying, well, but if my end users stop submitting tickets, then they're not going to see any value in my service and they're not going to want to pay. That's what I do. What I do at my MSP is give great customer service. Oh yeah? Really? What about the first half of this video? Are you really giving great customer service, or are you patting yourself on the back because you're Superman? And yes, I understand it's objectively awesome every time you do something superhero-ish, but is it actually awesome for the person you're trying to help? Like when Superman comes flying down and swoops Lois Lane up off the ground at the speed he's going at, her spine and neck instantly would have turned to powdered dust. Like, is that really that good for her? Or is that, something that's kind of cool that he can do? And I think that happens a lot at MSPs, where we don't focus on the fact that the best interaction our clients can have with us is no interaction whatsoever. And we hear that and we're like, well, hey, that's not good customer service. And also, that's what I sell. I sell how many blades of grass I've cut. No, you don't. You sell a beautifully manicured lawn that's not full of weeds and moss. That's what you're selling. You sell, back to my toilet paper roll is my favorite one. You're not selling how many rolls of toilet paper you can change. You're selling the fact that when I sit down, I have a clean butt every time. That's what you're selling. And then the roll goes the right way. And there is a right way. And if you put the roll the wrong way, you're a terrible person. That's what you're selling. And so when you think about that, is the value add for me if I sit down in the stall that I had to page the janitor from my cell phone, and they very promptly, I had to wait less than 5 minutes from the run from the supply closet, which they efficiently organized, to get all the way upstairs and drop a roll of paper outside the door that I could awkwardly pick up and hope no one sees me. And I should be, honestly, that's best in class janitorial service right there, optimized for efficiency. Their tools are dialed in, and I should be thankful for that. No, I'm aggravated that I have a dirty butt and I had to bother anybody. You guys get that, right? Like, the best customer service there is to be invisible. And so that's why I think ticket deflection is way more important at the MSP than we give it credit for. And relying on this idea that the support experience and being best at it is somehow the product you're delivering is a crutch we use to excuse the fact that really a truly great for-profit IT business should have a fairly low amount of user-generated tickets because they should be being deflected. Now, I will be the first to admit that many of the enterprise strategies for ticket deflection are admittedly rather shitty. And so, I mean, a lot of them are, I got a list over here, self-help options like FAQs. Who doesn't love an FAQ? Knowledge bases, automated chatbots, yay. Community forums. I love supporting myself. Like, I understand that our enterprise cousins have done a fairly terrible job at the ticket deflection experience. So how hard is it for you at your MSP to do 10% better? Like, fine. So fair enough. Little Caesars, the nationwide chain, makes shitty, already ready $8 pizzas. So be better than that, but still take the concept away, right? Like, so in our MSP case with ticket deflection, some of those elements absolutely are appropriate. We're starting to see more of that in this space. There are more tools that are helping us either avoid tickets or streamline the process so people can self-help themselves. We're starting to see more adoption of RPA and automation tools to also assist with this. But really, and I would go back to, it's the one thing that all of you claim to do, but yet I keep meeting so many of you that don't actually do this. Understanding your client's line of business and, predicting the problems that they're likely to have and then properly selling them solutions to mitigate those problems ahead of time that are scaled reasonably to their business and not the cheapest available solution so you can check a box. That's, the way for us to do it. And a lot of MSP owners are going to say, yeah, all right, fine. I'm sold. I'm fine with all of that. But like, I sell support. And at the end of the day, if I stop interactions of support, people aren't going to buy from me. Well, first of all, like we just said, no, you don't sell support. And if that's the crutch you're standing on, that people have to see you mowing their lawns to know you mowed their lawns so they'll feel comfortable paying you to mow their lawns, then you're doing a shitty job mowing lawns. You understand that, right? Like, even if you have the best mower and you're using all of the lawn care science, if I will only pay you because I saw you mow the lawn, it means I have a trust issue. And if you cannot overcome my trust issue, that is your fault, lawn care provider. Just like it is your fault, MSP, if the only way your clients will pay you is if they have to submit incidents and requests for things with enough frequency to justify paying you. And everybody knows this because this is an age-old meme joke in our industry. When everything works, what am I paying you for? And when everything breaks, what am I paying you for? Ha ha ha, we all laugh about it. But no, really. No, really. So if the solutions you're providing are not actually aligned around what your client's business objectives are, where they can tangibly see the benefit, then you're probably just selling on fear, which is fine. I don't have a problem with fear, but that's why best in class doesn't really matter, because if I'm just afraid of running out of toilet paper, and so your service says, don't be afraid, we'll be there in 5 minutes with a new roll. I mean, that's better than no roll, but that's not really what I want. I don't want to talk to anybody when I'm in the bathroom. I just want it to have enough toilet paper. Please make that happen. A lot of what we're doing is like that. And y'all need to pay more attention to that and start focusing more on your ticket deflection strategies. So as I wrap up this video, one last thing I want to point out. There's going to be a small subset of you that have incredibly immature, race to the bottom price, very trunk slammy clients. I'm not saying you are a trunk slammer, but there are going to be some of you that are very trunk slammy clients. They're going to hear all of this and be like, no, my client genuinely loves talking to my team and they love working with me and they want to know about every ticket I do. Yeah, I understand that. There are some clients that are like that. And I'm not saying they're bad people, but those clients are like that because they're shit tier clients. And you do need to understand that. And if that's your business model, that's fine. Someone's got to support them. And if you want to be the person that supports those clients, that's okay. Good for you. Just own that and lean into that. Most of us don't want to do that, which is why that tends to be a starting client that we grow out of. Just be aware of that's not positive, healthy client buying behavior. That's toxic behavior. That's negative behavior. Those are clients those are those same lunatic people that really would go outside and count the number of blades of grass that you cut and then ask for a price reduction because, you cut 1/1000th less blades of grass than they thought you should cut. Those people are crazy. And unfortunately, there are people like that in the business space that say things like that, as I pointed out in other videos, not because they actually are tied to being mentally lunatics. It's fear. It's fear. They don't actually know or understand how to rate if you are providing value. So they panic and they internalize things they can't understand. And over a period of time, it becomes a pattern of decision making around fear. And so you have two options with those clients. One is to fully accept that they are like that, and that is your business model. And the other one is to work very hard to overcome that fear and to help them learn to understand how you operate and the value that you provide. If you are not committed to either one of those, then you need to get rid of that type of client. You need to stop lying to yourself and to me by thinking that you're doing a great job because you send those clients their weekly report talking about some metric or idea that those people have no idea. They don't understand what any of that nonsense means to begin with. You're not doing a best-in-class job with those clients. And you're damn sure not deflecting with those clients. So just don't fall into that trap. Have a spicy Monday. Stop patting yourselves on the back for being Superman when you're destroying the entire town and start looking how to deflect the issue from getting to Earth in the first place.